Welcome to the 30-day shake diet experiment review. So if you haven't seen my other two videos, they will be linked up on either side here or there, and you'll be able to check them out and go through everything that essentially I have gone through over the last 30 days. To give you a quick little synopsis, I basically had 2 shakes a day and a main meal for 30 days. I didn't track any calories, didn't track any macros, I just had my 2 shakes, had my main meal in an attempt to lose some body fat. In this video, I want to basically give you a run through of all the things that I did, the results, the good things, the bad things, and then my thoughts after this to give you a bit of an idea of whether or not this is actually going to be something for you. First and foremost, let's discuss the results, because obviously that's the most important thing. That's probably why you're here. You want to know, how much weight did I lose? How much body fat did I lose? Did my body composition change? And how did it all go? Well, first and foremost, I lost 3.3 kilograms, or about 6.6 pounds, half a stone, give or take, in those 30 days. As you can see, my body composition kind of changed. It did and it didn't. This is quite important when you're considering weight loss. If you consider just the absolute weight loss versus, say, a percentage, then it's probably not quite as impressive if you look at it as a percentage aspect of things. Like, I didn't even lose 5% of body weight. So from a results perspective and a body composition change, not a whole lot changed, if I'm honest. Let's get into the good part of this 30-day shake diet experiment. First and foremost, there is no thinking. All I have to do is to have 2 shakes a day. So I would have it late morning, late afternoon, and then have my 1 meal in the evening. I didn't really consider about what that evening meal was. I just kind of ate, made sure I had some vegetables, had some protein in it, but that's as far as it was. There wasn't really any thinking or consideration, or how many carbs should I have, or how much fat should I have, how much protein should I have, how many calories shall I have? How can I fit this in at the end of the day? There was none of that. It was literally just 2 shakes a day and 1 main meal. Another good thing about this 30-day shake diet experiment came down to the planning aspect of things. You know, if I was going out for the day, I didn't have to carry any kind of snacks or high protein snacks, or have to think about where I was about to go for my next meal, whether it had enough protein in it, or if it was too many calories or not enough calories. I just literally had to carry a shaker cup and my powder with me. I could find water wherever I went to, and that was my meal. That's what made it really, really easy, and didn't have to think much about this whole thing overall. And I think that's a really good part of this 30-day shake diet experiment. The fact that there is already everything pre-planned out. You don't have to go and search out anything. You don't have to think about anything. You just have to do. Now, let's lead into the bad parts of the 30-day shake diet experiment. And there were quite a few. I do caveat this with the fact that I will describe myself as an enlightened dieter, where I've tracked macros in the past and had great success with weight loss. So I understand that there's plenty more food variety and personalization, etc. with all of this, which I'll get into in my conclusions at the end of the video. The first bad aspect of this shake diet experiment was the shakes that I chose themselves. They weren't horrible in terms of taste, but they weren't great. So it kind of made it was a bit like, oh God, I've got to have either vanilla or chocolate. Chocolate or vanilla. That was it. There was no other choice, there was nothing else with it. These were also vegan shakes as well, and they can be quite notorious for not actually tasting very nice themselves. These were a little bit lumpy. I had to think about if I was going to add some ice, if I left it in the refrigerator, it would make it a little bit tastier. But overall, the shakes weren't very good. I'm specifically not revealing the brand that I used because I'm not interested in them getting promotion out of what I was doing here. It was all about just a shake diet, not a product specifically, meaning I lost weight. It was just shakes. That's all it did. A second thing that cropped up, which I kind of didn't foresee happening, was the fact that if I forgot a shake, or if I was in a social situation that was quite important. So I'll give you 2 examples. I'd go to work or go into London to go and do my personal training sessions, and I'd forgotten one of my shakes. So what do I do then? I can't not have the shake, but I had the shake. it's at home, so maybe I just have to wait till I get home, but what if I'm hungry? You know, it was quite restrictive in that sense. Luckily, they did have these ready drinks that I managed to buy at a supermarket, which were basically the same as the shakes, but maybe that's my neuroticism, maybe I could have just had something else, but fundamentally, it meant that I had to think outside the box and deviate slightly, which didn't make things very good. Bearing in mind, I did have 59 shakes out of the 60 that I was going to be having over those 30 days. There was only one occasion where it didn't happen. And that one occasion was when we went to go and see my wife's grandparents. And they'd cooked a lovely dinner, or not dinner, sorry, a lunch. And I was already going to dinner that evening. So I'd already planned to have 2 shakes and then dinner, but I can't really say no to Laura's really cute and lovely grandparents. So I had to kind of just not have a shake and just go to have what they made. So that bit of stress on that front, but that's where I can see it being quite a bad thing is it doesn't seem very restrictive, but it is. Because all you have are 2 opportunities to have shakes and then 1 opportunity to have a meal. Again, another problem with the shakes, and this leads us into the third aspect of what was bad about this diet. And that's also probably going to be something to do with the conclusion as well at the end. Basically, the shakes themselves were very low in carbohydrates. And in fact, quite low in calories. I'm quite a big guy, in my 80 odd kilogram mark. I do a lot of activity walking around with a backpack on, so my expenditure is very high. Most of my meals that I consume, certainly the main ones, breakfast, lunch and dinner, typically can be around 600 to 800, even upwards of 1,000 calories per meal. And this will also consist of around about 50 grams of carbs, probably plus per meal. These shakes were only 400 calories, 40 grams of protein and about 17 grams of carbs, and then the rest came from fat. That low carb intake was actually making me quite lazy. Like I was a bit more tired through the day. I was sitting down more. I certainly wasn't walking as fast or willing to get up and move around as much as I might on a slightly higher carbohydrate diet. So with that, I think the personalization of the shakes to fit you as an individual and how active you are and how heavy you are is going to play a role within how successful this might be. Let's get into my actual thoughts of whether or not I think you should attempt this shake diet experiment. First and foremost, I'm going to start with something a little bit more positive. If you are looking for a bit of a kickstart, maybe like a 21-day sort of fat loss phase to motivate you to go into something else, this might be a bit of an option for you. It might be something that'll just make it easy, you'll cruise into it, 3 weeks, I'll just lose a bunch of kilos, and you'll then move into something that's a little bit more calorie focused, a little bit more personalized, and a little bit better than what a shake diet actually is. The personalized approach to your nutrition is just so important. How many calories you're going to be in, how great the deficit is, whether you like carbs, whether you like fat, whether you like crunchy, whether you like smooth, whether you like liquid, whether you like vegetables. I mean, any kind of number of things can be personalized. And this shake diet itself was not personalized, which made it very, very, very difficult to be able to stick to properly. Another big aspect of this is that the shake diet doesn't ultimately target the issue that you might have around food and food education. So it just takes away the whole thing. You don't have to think about it, which is kind of great, but it's also an important part of learning how to adopt a new identity of a lower body weight that you're trying to attain. If you're trying to do this to move out of, say, obesity into overweight, into normal weight, you need to go through stages of learning about what kind of food you should be consuming, how much vegetables should you be having, what kind of lean protein sources out there, what kind of things do you like, what do you dislike, whilst maintaining some sort of calorie deficit whilst you're doing it. A shake diet doesn't do that. It's just a kind of a lazy way to be able to create a deficit that you're ultimately not going to be able to stick to for a longer period of time after this. A big process of food education is understanding all of those things and understanding that your calorie intake and what's in certain types of food all are quite important in managing your body weight. And kind of to finish my little shake diet experiment review, I think there are much better options out there. Certainly for individuals that are trying to make a change in terms of their body weight, like I said before, from obese, overweight into a normal, healthy body weight. And even for those individuals who are trying to lose body fat. You'll be more successful, having more variety in your diet, and being more personalized with your overall approach. So, Sure, like I said, if you want a bit of a kickstart to be able to start some sort of fat loss process, try something a bit new, you might expect some quite good results. But you have to take into consideration that one meal where you might potentially overconsume based on simple things like food focus. However, there are better options out there, namely things like tracking macros on MyFitnessPal and personalizing it to your body weight and your output will probably yield better results. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe. Any questions about the shake diet itself, please hit them in the comment section below. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one, where I'm now gonna go into a bit of a building phase. Because obviously I haven't mentioned we're still in lockdown. Well, kind of in lockdown, but gyms have opened. So, happy days. Either way, I shall see you in the next one. Peace.